So, record is on, and let me share screen here for a minute. Oh, that's this one. Had a couple things that I wanted to go over today. The first was just the required discussions that we are going to be due in about 2 hours and 59 minutes, no more than that. And this is not required content for those. These are some thoughts I wanted to add, and of course I will enlarge on these in the feedback that you receive for the weekend, or for the content. And then after we've gone through this, I will take another quick play through this week's paper. Does that sound good?
Sounds perfect.
Okay. So, I fixed my chair the other day. All of that squeaking sound is because I got tired of it collapsing. So now it does not collapse, it just squeaks.
You win some, you lose some.
Yep. All right. So, regaining competitive edge. That's that first question in the required discussions. Here's something to think about here. Any business relies on three options, three competitive options. They can compete on cost, quality, or service, right? And that means literally that they can compete on two of the three. You cannot compete on all three successfully because one of them will always conflict with the other two. Think about that. At some point, if you improve quality and improve service, eventually whatever you're selling has to cost more. And so you cannot work it that way. Think about if you improve, you try to keep pushing costs down and driving service up, now the quality is going to suffer. So what happens is businesses have to pick which two they really want to concentrate on. Now, unfortunately, some management, and if we read through some of what we have seen in the discussion questions, some management thinks we will successfully dominate all three. Cannot do that. Eventually, reality hits them alongside the head like a brick, and they wonder what happened to their business. So, there's always a compromise somewhere, and I thought everybody needed to be aware of that, because I have seen managers come out and executives come out and they would say, we are going to compete on all three of these successfully, and I just sit there and shake my head because they missed something in their basic business classes. It just does not work that way. Okay? So you can come close, but you're not going to maximize them. That's something to think about. So if you get an executive that says they're going to do that, I don't know, maybe it's time to look at that executive really hard. I don't know. Okay. Now, the second question addresses strengthening the manufacturing base. When you go, golly, Pete, what are they talking about? Well, if you'll remember, way back in colonial days, I guess, there were home and cottage industries, which meant somebody sat around the fire and they spun yarn, and when they had extra yarn, more than they needed for their own personal use, that was part of their industry that they could sell, swap, or trade that out some other way, right? Get something for their value, whether it's making furniture, making yarn, making cloth, whatever. So that then proceeded to morph into real industries, where there was an industry that made yarn, cloth, and furniture, and that sort of thing. For example, North Carolina was famous for its furniture manufacturing. and famous for its textile plants. That was part of industry. So you go, okay, now strength manufacturing base. So what do you have? You have goods that are produced, right? Companies produce goods, companies deliver services, and manufacturing always requires at least those four things down there. Somebody that knows how to do it, the materials to put together, some type of energy to make it work. You don't want to get by with sit there and trying to turn the spinning wheel with human energy, right? You want coal, you want gas, you want water, you want something. And then there's organizational competitive behavior. So strengthening the manufacturing base is going to require these four issues or items and factors, right? In combination with whatever you're making. And there's a minor problem with that. Imagine this. Back years ago, if somebody wanted steel, it was cheaper, easier, cost-effective, all of those things, to produce the steel here in the United States. That was a manufacturing thing. They had the labor, the materials, the energy, those great big blast furnaces, and they mostly competed amongst themselves in the country, right? Manufacturing base. Well, then, what did we see? And we'll see this in one of our discussion questions about outsourcing. Why? Because it became less expensive for the company that was manufacturing steel to let somebody else manufacture the steel and send that steel back to make the cars or whatever they're making out of it, right? So what happened, and this was about, it was more than 40 years ago, because I remember some of my professors commenting, hey, you need to go into the service sector because the economy is shifting to a service economy, not a manufacturing economy, which then is going to lead us back to here, cost, quality, and service, right? Okay. So, back again. So when you're talking about strengthening the manufacturing base, so you have to figure, well, in the first place, what is it going to require? It's going to require what? Building these things. That's what's going to strengthen a manufacturing base. But in order to do this, you're going to have somebody locally or globally that wants this. So you have to be competitive using this. Okay?
Okay.
All right. So that's something to think about for strengthening the manufacturing base. And now, operations management. You go, all right, well, we're going to jump down again. You're going to think about this one. What was the one down here? Competitive behavior. Okay? That's part of this manufacturing base. But operations management builds that competitive behavior. Right? Because operations management does what? It makes it cost efficient, effective, less resource intensive, and still tries to get some good quality out there. That's what manufacturing management is about. Or rather, operations management. So what do you have? You have production or manufacturing management coupled with good operation management. You hear people saying we're going to do more with less, and I think you saw my comment in one of the discussions the other day is that we did more with less for so long that we could now do anything with nothing.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I have been hearing more for less, more with less for 35 years. I mean, come on, guys. You get it. Get not enough people involved, and we did that. It was always fewer and fewer and fewer and fewer, and then they said, we do not want you to work any overtime. Well, golly, Pete, what do you expect? Okay, so people were leaving. They were leaving because it was just unrealistic. So now they're trying to make it realistic again. Okay, well, think about that. trying to minimize resources and maximize returns. Okay, when the penny screams, then that means you're holding it tight enough. Okay, which is going to work right into one of the other questions down here. So let's move on down. This kind of makes sense here.
Yes.
Okay, because when you look at global competition, what do you have? Without effective operational management, the competition goes overseas. And you know what's really scary? No one has it's nowhere in the sources that we have here. The Japanese that come out with Kaizen event, right? You heard about that? That's where you have a super duper meeting and everybody says, what's the absolute best way we can do this? And they have this big Japanese fancy word for that. We taught that to them at the end of World War II. We, the United States, taught that concept to the Japanese at the end of World War II. All of the fancy Japanese terms that come over here, we're going to do whatever they want to call that. Kaizen was a specific one. There are other specific zero defects. I mean, that was World War II. Okay, they knew the importance of operations management and good manufacturing processes. I mean, it was do or die, guys, right? People do not remember that. So here are some of these. This is the next question down. Challenges foreign production. What? Look, why does a company outsource? Money, right? Cost less. If the company, we have a standard joke story, true story, I guess, about a company that woke up one morning and decided they were going to outsource things that they did not need to keep in-house. So they outsourced manufacturing, then they outsourced communication, then they outsourced their HR, then they outsourced everything except for the president of the company, and then he decided he might as well stay home. Okay? That's the joke on outsourcing. It can literally be that bad. And here's the deal though. When you do outsource, and this again has not yet appeared in the works that we've been reading, it's a thing called a core competency. And I may have spoken about that in one of the earlier recordings. Here's a deal on that. A core competency is something special that the organization does that contributes so significantly to its superior performance that it differentiates that organization. That's a core competency. It's something that's really special. It does, and it knows how to do that, and it does it very well, right? So essentially, an organization can outsource everything except that which directly relates to or impacts its core competency, whatever that might be, and there might be 2 or 3 or 4 of them, right? So that's the thing, that core competency. Now, insourcing, I mean, what the heck is that? Oh, come on. That just means that what you used to outsource, now you're going to bring back into the country, right? So why would somebody do either one of these? Again, it's the expectation of the reward for making that decision. If the company thinks it will be better off by bringing production or manufacturing or something else back into its country, then it will do that, better off. If it will be better off the other way, then it won't do that. Okay? Now, one thing, you remember the pestle model that we talked about several weeks ago, that political, economic, social, technological, legal, and ethical, that model, governments interfere in the economy. I mean, that's just what they do. And so governments can create conditions that favor outsourcing or that favor insourcing.
Good tax breaks.
That's one way to do it. Anytime it becomes more rewarding for the company to maintain operations inside a country, they will do that. And so the government can change that or affect that. They put their fingers in the pie. And of course, if you remember back a couple weeks when we talked about capitalism, one of the things that we stated and discussed was really usually a good idea to minimize government interference, but everybody goes, well, yes, but it's minimal except when it's going to protect me, right? So it's me-ized, if that makes sense, okay? All right. So what can a company do? They're going to make the best decision for the company. And if you'll remember, we also talked about FAIL's 14 principles. I put out an email, put something in the announcements, put a thing in the discussion thread on that. One of those principles is subjugation to the organization's goals. And that means that everybody that works in an organization ultimately should say, well, if it's best for the organization to do this, then I need to do that. And you go, wow, how about if it means giving up your job? And you go, well, I might want to think about that. But some people will do that. And some organizations expect that. For example, I know one very high business leader that managed to really irritate a lot of people in Michigan because he decided his company was losing too much money in Michigan, and so he just closed all the plants and moved them somewhere else. Like, pop, that was it. He was gone. He said, that's what I'm going to do. It's better for the company. Boy, did he irritate a lot of people. It was a very, very big company. Okay? But he did that. And it was good for his company. Not very happy for the people in Michigan. But that was not his concern. Okay? All right. Moving on. Six Sigma. This shouldn't get close to the end here. Anyway, the other question, back to that outsource. I mean, think at it. Toyota, Honda, Apple, Chrysler, bringing all of their stuff back in. It's really, really nice. That's good for the economy because what is that going to do? That gives us a manufacturing base as well as the expertise they've all been working on for their operations management. So it's going to be really good. Okay, Six Sigma. And we're going to see this again as well when I go over the project or the assignment. Six Sigma. What? 3.4 per million. Who cares, right? It's just not very many, whatever it is. 3.4 out of a million. But we don't care about that. Here's what we really care about for Six Sigma. It is a problem-solving process. You define the problem, you measure what you have, analyze what you have, see what you can do to improve it, see what happens, control the effort, and then go back and start again if you have to. That's what Six Sigma is about. And I used to have a really hard time. Let me go ahead and, used to have a hard time because I am a statistician. And when someone said Six Sigma, I'd say, okay, I want to see the Six Sigma. I want to see the statistics that are going to support what you're telling me you're really going to do. They go, yeah. And they had not a clue. And I said, you have no idea what you're doing, do you? And they went, yeah, we're doing blah, 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 blah. And so this is Six Sigma. And I said, well, I want to explain something to you. Forget statistics. If you do these well enough, you'll get that. But something else to remember about Six Sigma, it is not cheap. And if you had math where they have an asymptotic line, you know what that is, right? Let's imagine this is an X and this is the Y axis and this is the X axis.
Right.
Okay, when I start going like this, eventually when I get closer and closer to this thing, cost goes up and up and up and up and up, and I'm really not ever getting over to Six Sigma, am I? But cost goes exponentially higher. And so guess what? People never really reach Six Sigma. It costs too much. They might reach 5. Okay? So that's some things to think about on this week's discussion. So let me close that and open the next thing. So I'll stop that share. Did that try to sort of make sense? And I hopefully added some value for you.
Yes, it helped.
Yes, it helps. Good. I feel better about that.
No, I had to mute. My kids came in, so.
Oh, that's okay. Are they all right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, let me see if I can share here. We'll go over briefly the next one here. Now, this is a reiteration of what I did last week, but it has some extra stuff at the end. So let's do this. Let's go to the end, and then we'll come back and take a look at it. This is the Module 5 Project Part 2. You'll notice it's not due until Module 5, but it's listed in Module 4 to give you an opportunity to start digging on it, start looking and working on it, okay? That's why they do that early. So all you have to do is click on that link, and it says do Module 5, and you can take a look at those. Okay, so I do recommend doing that. And just like the assignment for this week, it's fairly specific. And if you answer all of the questions and then take a look at the rubric and go, did I get all of that? And if you can answer yes, then you probably did okay. All right? That's on just content. But I want you to remember, look at that whole rubric, not just the content. Because that's what I have to grade off of. That's it. I did not make the course. I did not make the rubric. We have what we have. And so I have to grade from what they have in there. So if you see any conflicts, ask me about that. If you have any questions, ask me about that. And do it before 11:59 p.m. of next Sunday, right? Give me a day or so that I can help you or work on it if you have them. Now remember, all of these projects now, picked an organization sometime like in week 1 or something. Remember that, because I'm going to report on Apple or whatever it is you're going to write on now. All of these projects now, they're going to come and apply to that organization. The very, very first one that started out with the timeline that started at the end of the Civil War. I mean, come on, we did not have any computerized stuff after almost the very, very end of World War II. So there was no way you would have been able to answer that question or that series of questions using the company that you picked. From now on, and starting with what you did last week, they're all going to be on that company that you picked. Say it one more time. The company that you picked. Remember, he said, make sure you're going to be able to do these things on the company that you picked. So take a look at that Module 5. If you have any questions, let me know. You can also still take a look at Module 4. Let me know right away on that, because tomorrow's Thursday and it will take me a minute or two to dig into it if you do have some questions, okay? All right, now let's move on here onto this Module 5. This is an interesting thing. This 5-step critical thinking process. And they call it ideas. Okay? Ideas, which is what? First thing is, you identify something. Does that sound familiar? That sound like defined for Six Sigma? And then you do some research and you deepen your understanding. That sound maybe like you're measuring things? Wow, guess what, right? E, enumerate options and consequences. Does that sound a little bit like an analysis? Assess the situation and make a best guess. Make some kind of good decision. Right? Improve something. Make an idea. Make a first change. Scrutinize, examine, and change. C for control. Guess what we have? We have ideas, and we have the Six Sigma process. They're both the same, or so nearly identical as to be indefinably different, right? The 5-step critical thinking process. When you look at the Module 5, you'll find them talking about the E. Well, that's the E in this 5-step process. The And that just means list, enumerate. They did that because they wanted it to make some kind of a nice word. Okay? So take this away. This is a carry away. The 5-step critical thinking, the 5-step problem solving, the 5-step improvement process. All of those require the same thing. They require ideas. They require the MAIC, which is the implementation of Six Sigma. Isn't that neat? Okay. That I wanted to remind you of because I saw some comments in the instructions for the Module 5 that said the E, blah, 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 blah. And I went, need to make sure they get that. Okay? So now you have that. So real quickly go through